Chapter 17.
Whoa.
Sorry, guys. So this is a chapter where we're going to spend a considerable amount of time continuing to look at the periodic table and a lot of the really cool things the periodic table tells us, like what the colors mean and you know where they're located, what that tells you about the particular atom or element. We will also have, like I said, our element quiz. We will talk about the history of the periodic table, how it came about. Okay? So, first things first. Element. We should already know this, but here it is again, because you can never get enough repetition. Especially if notice it has to be a pure substance, because if it's not a pure substance, you have multiple elements, not one element. Everybody hear what I said? It has to be a pure substance. If it's not a pure substance, you will have more than one kind of element. You can't define an element by 2 elements or 12 elements. It would be a mixture of elements that's different. Okay? I'm not going to elaborate on this. You should know this. Just good little place to start when you start talking about the periodic table of elements. You probably should know what an element is. You know. Alright, we're talking about some historical things. Mr. Aristotle, you know, I think Aristotle was given way too much credit for his stuff because most of his stuff he came up with was really not that smart. Now I say that knowing all the information that I know that has been discovered, but still. Anybody ever heard this before? You've heard it? Anybody else? A couple people? The fact that way a long time ago, and Aristotle was another one of those Greek dudes, you know, that just theorized things. He believed that all things were made up of 4 elements, and those elements were air, fire, water, and earth. Pretty silly, huh? Well, air is not one element, it's a mixture of a whole bunch of compounds. Fire is a chemical reaction. Water isn't an element, it's a compound. And earth is a whole bunch of various compounds and elements and particles. So, good try, Mr. Aristotle. Funny thing is people during Aristotle's time period knew of at least 9 substances that are defined as elements today. Now, did they know they were elements? No. But they dealt with 9 substances that were in their elemental form. Kind of funny, isn't it? Only I think it's funny.
Yeah.
Maybe I should say ironic. Alright, believe it or not, some of these elements that we just talked about, some of these 9 elements were actually referred to way back in the Bible. So we're going to find out what are some of the biblical elements that the Bible actually talks about before they were ever discovered or defined as elements? First one, copper. They had copper back in the Bible times. There are Bible passages that talk about the copper. How many instruments did they have that were made of brass? They had instruments in the Bible, right? Okay, now did they know that these were like simple elements or individual elements made up of atoms? No. But they have them. Gold. It's funny that the Bible, there are meanings behind some of these things, or these objects represent or symbols of stuff. And so gold represents the believer in many situations in the Bible. So to get the next 5 in here, and then we'll just kind of talk about them. So you will need to know there are 7 elements that we're going to talk about that have appeared in the Bible. You're going to need to know some of the common uses for them in the Bible, but also what they symbolize. So if I ask you what does gold symbolize, you need to know that it represented the believer in the Bible. A lot of times when you see gold in the Bible, it's a representation of the believer, of a believer. Is it always? No. Iron represented power. A lot of things made of iron. It makes sense. Iron's a pretty strong metal. Makes sense why they would have talked or used iron to represent power. Where's your notes?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, when you find them, make sure you get this copy from somebody. Well, at this point, probably too late. That actually represented corruption. Interesting. That was new to me when I first read that. Pretty cool. And as you would probably understand, silver was used all the time back in Bible times as currency. Questions? If we have time, we'll find some of these Bible passages. But we got a late start, so. Did you know that brimstone is just sulfur? Fire and brimstone, fire and sulfur. That's what God used to destroy what? Interesting. Sulfur actually is very flammable. Goes boom. There's actually symbolism, I believe Revelation, where sulfur is a symbol for God's judgment. And it would make sense, you know, it was used to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, alloy. This has come up twice now. You guys remember, I'm pretty sure we had a vocab word in a previous chapter on alloy, or at least I talked about it. Do you guys remember what an alloy is? Think you know? It's a what? Sorry. Yes, but it's a specific. It's actually not. Well, okay. Depends on what you mean by combined. An alloy is a mixture of metals. So the reason why I said what I said for you, Stephen, is if you say combined, do you mean mixed or do you mean chemically combined? Because they're not chemically combined. Does that make sense? That's just a mixture of metals. Because what they do is they heat them up, mix them together, cool them down. Okay? Brass, bronze, steel, all of those are alloys. They're mixtures of metals. And there's more, but those are the most common. All right, last slide and a half. Does anybody know anything about the alchemists?
No, about alchemy.
Alchemy, okay, what's alchemy?
The guy
Oh, what is alchemy from video games?
They take different liquids / potions and then mix them together to create a substance.
Did you know alchemists were like old school chemists? Like they tried to like mix things together and do things with chemicals to try to, you know, get these potions or these things. And what was interesting is actually alchemists were really pretty greedy, and they tried to do one thing that only I can do. And that's, you know, take regular metals and turn them into gold. It's funny, because if they would have figured this out, that'd be pretty rich dude, don't you think? I mean, I gotta supplement my private school salary with something, so, you know, I make gold out of cheap metals. I have to. Can't afford it.
Just buy pipes and gold.
I usually just take like nickels and dimes and turn them into gold nickels and gold dimes. Oh, yeah.
That would be as much as it could. Well,
I mean, I gotta get my chemicals together. Do it. You want me to do that for you one of these days?
Yeah, I like some gold. Because you take a little gold dime and stuff. We optimists for the day.
Yeah. All right. Try to.
Do it.
Just don't do it very much.
Yeah.
Probably want time to.
Our specials. And that's for a bar of
You guys are special. You feeling lonely today, Shane?
But no, I said I'm back after so I could rest my chin on
Didn't know if you needed a hug.
it. No, probably not you. I'm just hungry.
Almost. We're almost done.
So close. I was like,
Was your 5th hour just good lesson? Or did you have
Typically, my 5th hour is much better than my it's just. No, I mean better. I don't mean I don't care for the kids. It's just easier. Things get done faster.
So is 5th hour normally smaller?
Yeah.
probably one.
The 5th hour is normally smaller because they're either kids who don't take like Spanish or something, or kids that are advanced math.
No, me and Everett are taking Spanish because we're in art 8th hour. That's
Everybody else is
everybody else is super genius. Everyone else. Right? We just got
No one's a
thrown in the
super
bag.
genius. Everyone's a product of their decisions.
They had the decision to have you. Huh?
Yeah. Yes, that's
We're
true.
part of
Yep. Okay. So, even though do you think they were ever able to convert cheap metals into gold? No, they're not, Mr. Kramer.
Spray paint.
No, they were not. Yeah. I don't think I'd spray paint them. You know, they didn't have compressed gases, gas cans or paint cans. Now, even though they weren't able to do it, guys, in the process of like experimenting and trying to mix things together and try to get these cheap metals into gold, they were actually able to develop a lot of things, and they were actually able to come up with a lot of modern day things that we now continue to use. Purification things that they started to do way back then that we still use. Now we've improved, but they started way back with these alchemists. This is the last line. Now, there was also some goofy stuff that went on with alchemists. Yeah, a lot of them claim to be religious freaks, like me. We were religious freaks. I mean the kooky ones. No, the kooky ones, like the ones that, you know.
Halloween is for the devil.
So you think Halloween's not for the devil?
Not in my opinion. For me, it's just handing out candy to kids. I mean, not getting it.
You don't get it. Sure.
Yeah, my mom told me I was too old to drink drinks.
Yeah, for too old. I go out.
I was 2 years with
I
the
would.
kids
I was
4
like,
years
Mom.
ago.
I was like, oh crap, Halloween's in like 2 weeks.
I was told not to go, but I snuck into my dad's group with my brother and stuff.
Didn't you sneak in
How
your
do you
dad's
sneak
group?
into a group?
Well, see, he's already halfway down the street, and he wouldn't want to turn back, so I just kind of snuck with him. Until I turned around, I was like,
You naughty, naughty boy. See, that's why Halloween's for the devil.
Disobedience.
I got cough drops.
Yeah, that's what you deserve. Coal and cough drops.
I had a cold, so I
And
got
don't
cough
forget to fix your face.
Stop.
Oh,
Shoot. Alright, so quickly review. There's about 7 elements. Name one. Try to do it without looking at your notes. Sulfur. What is it known for? What does it represent?
Oh, I don't know.
God's judgment.
God's judgment. Okay.
Gold.
Gold.
Gold. What does it represent? Okay.
Lead represents corruption.
Lead represents corruption.
Oh, snap. I know.
Okay, there's 3.
Iron.
Iron represents
Power.
power. Okay.
Silver.
Silver, money, currency.
Lead was just the
Wait,
ice.
Trevor.
What's the last one? Last
Can
2?
you check?
There was tin.
Nothing else.
Tin, alloys,
Copper.
and copper. Also a lot of alloys. What did you say?
Can you check to make sure there's nothing else on that list?
I'm pretty sure there's no other notes. Alright.
Ouch.
We are done!
Yeah.
Hey!
I used to think that commercial was just a rip-off of the Tums commercial.
We are farmers. Tum the tum 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 tum.
Yeah.
Well, and then whenever I heard the "We are farmers," I always thought it was for something. And then I had this realization one day that it was for farmers insurance.
They farm.
You don't have to be lonely. Calcium.
Don't eat too much calcium, kids. You'll regret it.
Yeah, and
You'll really regret it.
and it's saying like you don't have to be a farmer to go on farmersonly.com.
All you gotta be is